everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the minimum wage. And this topic reminded me of a time in high school when I worked at Subway. And I remember receiving my first paycheck and seeing the amount and being excited because it was a lot of money for a kid in high school. All I had to pay for was gas and food, and so the rest of the money was basically just disposable income. And I remember seeing my first paycheck and then thinking about one of my coworkers who happened to be a single mom of 4. And I remember thinking, how is this money enough for her and her family? And I remember her mentioning sometime later that she actually had to supplement her income with government assistance. And so the simple truth was that it wasn't enough. And unfortunately, today, too many people can relate to my coworker. And the cost of living is rising year over year, including the cost of basic necessities like food and housing, and even healthcare. While these baseline costs keep rising, the wages people earn do not. And with inflation on the rise recently, most of us are feeling the pain in our wallets and consequently with our families because we're not able to provide for them the things that should be basic needs. That is why our main point for today is that the minimum wage needs to be raised, and we need to get rid of the sub-minimum wages that exist today. The current wages are just not enough to provide for the basic living standards that we all deserve. In this presentation, we will discuss what the current minimum wage is and how that number compares to the average cost of living for a family of 4. We'll also be discussing some reasons why the raise in wages has been stunted. And finally, we will present some possible solutions that can help everyone's standard of living increase.
The minimum wage is not enough to sustain a healthy and happy lifestyle. The average cost of living for a family of 4 in the state of Utah is as follows. An estimated $4,641 a month, or $55,692 a year for a family of 4. That's reported by expatistan.com in December of this year, just a few weeks ago. This number includes a modest housing allowance of just over $1,500 a month, a utility allowance of about $400, a food allowance of about $1,500, and then the remaining $1,200 goes toward things like clothing, transportation, and personal care expenses. By the way, that $1,500 in rent is only getting about 900 square feet in living space. That's a 30-foot by 30-foot living space divided up into 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a tiny kitchen, and a small common area. That's not very big. And the $1,500 in groceries per month, it actually doesn't go very far, unless most of it is spent on ultra-processed foods that are really just designed to keep longer on the shelves, but not to hold any nutritional value. In addition to basic needs like food and shelter, healthcare is also very important in sustaining a happy and healthy lifestyle. Healthcare options can vary and range greatly depending on which plans are chosen. The average minimum cost of healthcare, a bronze level package, can cost $542 a month for a family of 4 through healthcare.gov. That number was pulled just in December of this year. This lowest tier option is for those who don't really anticipate being sick, and it really only covers the cost of regular checkups and maintenance like physicals or basic antibiotics. Lower premiums mean higher deductibles and higher copays when families do receive more than just the preventative care. In total, to live a very modest but healthy lifestyle with a family of 4 in this state, it currently costs $62,196 per year. The current average salary wage yearly in Utah is $79,000. That's according to the U.S. Census Bureau, quick facts. That leaves about $1,500 a month left over for saving, for entertainment, or any other unexpected expenses. If simple calculations can determine that the current minimum wage cannot support a family of 4 in the most basic terms, what is keeping the minimum wage from being raised to meet the needs of the public?
Hi everyone, I will be discussing our second main point. The cause of the problem is that racial and gender discrimination lead to occupational segregation and are highlighted as the main reasons why the minimum wage has not been raised. My first point is, according to the Center for American Progress, an organization dedicated to improving the lives of all Americans, the minimum wage has not been raised in 13 years. They claim that in inflation-adjusted terms, this means that the minimum wage has actually decreased by 26% in that time. This means that every dollar earned buys 26% less than it did when the minimum wage was set last in 2009. This article also states that women and people of color make up the majority of American workers that receive minimum or sub-minimum wages. Sub-minimum wages are wages that are under the minimum wage and are usually allowed because workers receive a majority of compensation through tips. Minimum wage and sub-minimum wage positions also offer no paid time off, sick leave, or healthcare benefits. American Progress points to the U.S. history of racism and sexism as to see why these groups are living below the poverty line and receiving wages that do not meet the cost of living. 20 states either don't have a set minimum wage or have a minimum wage set at the federally mandated $7 an hour. These states are primarily located in the southern region, indicating that old world ideas are still prevailing and denying growth to certain groups like women and people of color. The gender and racial biases not only deny workers fair compensation, they even go farther to deny these groups from entering into more diverse fields. Historically, persons living in poverty tend to stay in poverty, mostly due to lack of education. People living in poverty are often forced out of the education system in order to help provide for the family. The few who do not make it through primary and secondary school often do not get a college or vocational education due to the cost of higher education. Those in poverty are often more sick, and they have less time for family and fun stuff because they're using most of their time for working just to make ends meet. Occupational mobility is stunted, and therefore social mobility is stunted. When the minimum wage does not keep up with the rising costs of living, people struggle to come out of or remain in poverty. This is unacceptable in this day and age. There are no true housing or food shortages, so why can't so many afford to live comfortably and healthfully? Thank you.
Hi. For the third point, we're going to talk about what the government actually needs to do to create a change for this ongoing problem. First, they need to raise minimum wage and completely eliminate some minimum wage. By raising minimum wage, it will give more people more space to grow, live, and prosper in their own individual lives. They will not have to rely on the government as much, and therefore we can use that money elsewhere. Also, by increasing minimum wage, it will allow people to have access to more healthcare and insurances. This meaning that overall, they will be able to pay for their injuries, their sicknesses, and get the help that they need instead of just letting it drag on. For completely eliminating sub-minimum wage, this will help workers not have to rely on getting tips for their getting tips to make up their money. Tips are not guaranteed. Some people are very stingy with tips and leave $1. $1 is not going to help anyone in the long run. That $1 tip can be very crucial and have a significant impact on people. By getting rid of some minimum wage, this can also increase the standard of living for everyone around. By also having more money and eliminating some minimum wage, we can have the opportunity and the materials to go out and get a higher education, which will benefit everyone and can give them the opportunity to make more in the future and not have to be doing minimum wage jobs their entire life. Going forward, the government needs to come up with a clear plan to keep minimum wage higher and at a living standard. Now you ask, how are they going to do this? They need to do the math, and they need to have the drive and the wanting to help those people. In the Constitution, it is outlined, in domestic tranquility we provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of the liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish the Constitution for the United States of America. Now you may be asking, what does that mean? That essentially means we just need to fight for our people. We need to provide them with the opportunities and the materials to go out there and live a great life that America promises everyone. For our last example, I'm going to relate to Fight for 15. Fight for 15 was a protest to raise the minimum wage to $15 all over. This had a significant impact on the work industry, and hundreds and thousands of people joined in. Let's watch a video on it.
Developing story this midday around the nation. Workers are striking, picketing outside of fast food restaurants. It is the 4th anniversary of the Fight for 15 movement. News 8's Ken Pierce takes us to an early morning protest in Hartford. And what do we want? 15! And when do we want it? Now!
Fast food workers in Hartford and around the country took to the streets to call for higher wages. Yvonne has 4 kids to support on what she makes at Dunkin' Donuts.
Us families these days are struggling so hard that it's ridiculous. We are only fighting for what we deserve and for what is right for us.
The protest is part of Fight for 15.
As you can tell, people are very passionate about this movement, and the government needs to stand behind them and help these people. It would all over create less poverty and help people in significant ways. Thank you.
So because the minimum wage has not kept up with the cost of living, too many are going without basic needs being met, such as housing and food and healthcare. Women and people of color are disproportionately affected by this neglect in the United States. The subpar minimum wage also stunts personal and familial growth by not allowing occupational or societal mobility. If we can motivate our leaders to raise the minimum wage and eliminate a sub-minimum wage, millions of Americans will be able to come out of poverty and to help their families grow up happily and healthfully. Be proactive, be loud, and be consistent. Advocate for raising the minimum wage. Contact your local representatives and senators. Use social media to raise awareness amongst your friends and your followers. The minimum wage affects every single one of us, even if we're not living in destitution. Stay informed and keep pressuring those who make decisions and laws for us to make the decisions and laws that actually benefit the people they represent. Elect those who advocate for the world that we live in, and not those that are trying to preserve an antiquated, discriminatory past. Let's break the ceiling together.